We begin with Afghanistan, where resistance fighters are denying the Taliban's announcement that has captured their holdout in the Panjshir Valley north of Kabul. The weekend saw intense fighting in the mountainous region, where a group called the National Resistance Front has been battling the Taliban. It's made up of militia fighters and former members of the Afghan army. Reports say the opposition has suffered heavy losses, with 2 of its leaders killed on Sunday. Journalist Franz Marti has more on this story for us from Kabul. Franz, the Taliban, of course, say they've now taken control of the valley, but the resistance forces deny that. What else do we know right now?
The Taliban have indeed apparently taken control of the valley floor as of all the settlements. There are videos on social media circulating showing the Taliban in front of the center, in front of the main office of the government in Panjshir, which was also like the center for the resistance. So this seems to be true. What the resistance front is apparently saying is that their fighters are still in the mountain and that they might launch counterattacks. One spokesman for the resistance has also referred to the Soviet occupation, where the Red Army several times also went into the Panjshir Valley, took the villages, but was then again driven out by guerrilla counterattacks. How far this will be possible this time is hard to tell, because compared to previous resistances in the past, now the resistance fighters don't have like open supply lines. So if they're in the mountains, they seem to be cut off, which of course makes their position very difficult.
Franz, the Taliban also say that they're going to ask former Afghan forces to integrate into their new government. What are you hearing about that?
This was just today announced in a press conference by Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid. He was asked about this and replied that they are willing or even interested to integrate like professional personnel that has received training during the past 20 years from the government side. But he also said that this will go through, he called it procedures. So this is apparently a reference that some vetting will take place. And from what I hear, like many soldiers are, of course, more than wary what the Taliban might do if they think they have done suspicious things in the past. So to what extent this will be possible is a huge question mark.
Now, aside from the military endeavors that they're undertaking in the valley there, government, the business of government is a tall task ahead for the Taliban. We're hearing now about the process of selecting a government and a cabinet. How's that going?
In today's press conference, Zabihullah Mujahid said that this is like ongoing, but he still didn't say like clearly how far this has advanced or when exactly the government will be announced. It has been expected like since days. One possible explanation was that they wanted to quell the Panjshir resistance before announcing the government, but it is also possible that they themselves have not clarified all the details yet. So there's still no clarity when this will happen and how it will look like. It will most likely be like a Taliban government. There are no signs that like opposition groups will be included in any significant manner.
Franz Marti in Kabul. Thank you, Franz. Taliban said in a weekend interview that they want strong diplomatic relations with Germany, including cooperation in health, agriculture, and education. I'm joined now by our chief political correspondent, Melinda Crane, for more. Melinda, it's good to see you. How is this statement from the Taliban being received by the German government?
Well, the German government is certainly not likely to take up that invitation without conditions. The Taliban is looking for legitimacy here and also for significant financial support, and neither of those will come without conditions. Germany, in fact, closed its embassy in Kabul when the Taliban took over and relocated its ambassador to Qatar. And talks are going on with the Taliban Taliban's political office in Qatar. But German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas and Chancellor Merkel, although they've made it clear that they see some form of relations with the Taliban as necessary, that certainly neither resumption of development cooperation nor diplomatic relations will be undertaken without certain conditions being met. So the ones listed by the foreign minister were a stable security situation and also a broad and inclusive government on the part of the Taliban. And there, Mr. Maas is essentially echoing the EU's conditions. The EU has said there will not be real relations with the Taliban until it forms a government that shows respect for inclusion, human rights, and women, and also when it's clear that they will not be harboring terrorists.
So there is some leverage that the German government has here in terms of continuing to have talks with the Taliban. But given the humanitarian situation on the ground, what kind of pressure could Berlin be feeling, Melinda?
Well, there are two reasons why German officials and others as well have acknowledged that it will be necessary to have some form of relations with the Taliban. The first one is the need to continue evacuating the many foreign nationals and also vulnerable Afghans who are still stuck in Afghanistan. The German government has acknowledged that they still have tens of thousands of people on the list of those who are entitled to evacuation. Secondly, a looming humanitarian crisis. Europe, the United Nations have acknowledged that it will be very important to get humanitarian help to Afghanistan, which is why, in fact, access for humanitarian aid and guarantees of evacuation are amongst the list of conditions that the EU has stated. Expect to see all of this be on the agenda for discussion when the German foreign minister receives his American colleague, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, at Ramstein Air Base here in Germany. They will be holding a ministerial meeting with other colleagues, and this is certain to be a matter of discussion.
DW Chief Political Correspondent Melinda Crane. Thank you, Melinda.